Commander Han stared at the large screen on the wall of Earth's Defense Command Center. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were tight fists at his sides. On the screen, tall alien beings with shiny, hard outer shells were laughing at him, at all humans. "Look at these humans," said one alien with blue-green skin. His name was Counselor Vex. "They think they can join us. With their weak ships and soft bodies. They have not even fixed their own genes or taken over all the planets near their sun." Han took a deep breath. This was the 10th time in 5 years that the aliens had called just to make fun of Earth. Behind him, Dr. J bit her lip. She was Earth's best scientist who studied alien life. For years, she had helped humans reach out to the stars with hope. But all they got back was cruel laughter and rejection. "Sir," said Captain Kim, walking up to Han with a small computer pad. "They have said no to us joining the Galactic Trade Group again." He slid the pad across the table. "They say we are too young as a species to join." "That's the 5th time they've said no," said Admiral Song. His old face showed the marks of 30 years fighting for humans to have a place among the stars. "They don't just think we're below them. They think we're a joke." Han nodded slowly. The aliens had started calling Earth more often in the past year. They didn't want to trade or share knowledge. They just wanted to laugh at humans for being simple. The room fell quiet as the aliens on screen continued to talk. "Did you see their latest war?" asked a tall alien with red stripes. "They still fight over dirt and black oil." "And their leaders," laughed another. "So easy to trick with simple words. They believe whatever makes them feel good about themselves." "My favorite," said Counselor Vex, "is how they still can't agree if their air is getting too hot or not. The numbers are clear." The whole alien council broke into more laughter. Some made high sounds like birds. Others rumbled low like bears. But they were all laughing at Earth. Dr. Jha stepped forward. "Maybe we should cut the calls. Sir, there's no point in." "No," said Han firmly. "We need to hear this. We need to understand how they see us." On screen, a new alien appeared. This one had a long neck and skin that changed colors as it spoke. "The Grand Emperor has approved a new entertainment program," it announced proudly. "We call it Primitive Planets. It will show the daily lives of humans for all the galaxy to enjoy." Han's eyes narrowed. "What do you mean, show our daily lives?" The alien's skin flickered to a pleased purple color. "We have placed 10,000 tiny watching devices around your planet. They are too small for you to find with your simple technology. They send images of human life to all corners of the galaxy. You are now the most popular entertainment show for over 400 billion beings." The Defense Center erupted in angry shouts. Admiral Song slammed his fist on the table. "You have no right," he shouted. "That breaks every rule of first contact." The aliens just laughed harder. "Rules?" asked Counselor Vex. "Rules are for equals. You are not our equals. You are our entertainment." Han stepped forward, his voice calm despite his anger. "Turn off your cameras. Now." "Or what?" Vex asked, leaning closer to his camera. "Will you attack us with your tiny ships? The ones that can barely reach your own moon?" "This conversation is over," said Han, and nodded to the communications officer. The screen went black. For a long moment, no one spoke. "Can we find their cameras?" asked Captain Kim finally. Engineer Park, a small woman with quick eyes, shook her head. "Not if they're as advanced as the rest of their technology. They could be the size of dust." "So the whole galaxy is watching us?" asked Dr. Jha. "Everything we do. Our wars, our mistakes, our private moments." "And laughing," added Admiral Song bitterly. "Don't forget the laughing." Han turned to face his team. These were Earth's best scientists, soldiers, and leaders from around the world. They had trained for first contact with alien life for decades. No one had prepared them for aliens who just wanted to mock them. "We need to call an emergency meeting with all Earth governments," Han said. This goes beyond our usual problems. We're not just dealing with aliens who want to ignore us or even attack us. We're dealing with aliens who have made us into a joke for the whole galaxy. 3 days later, Han stood before the Earth United Nations. Leaders from every country sat in the large round room, their faces showing worry, anger, and fear. For the past 6 years, Han explained, we have tried to join the galactic community as equals. We have sent messages of peace. We have shared our art, our music, our best ideas. In return, we have been mocked and now invaded by their watching devices. A woman from Brazil raised her hand. Can we find these alien cameras and destroy them? Engineer Park, who stood next to Han, shook her head. We've tried. Our best technology can't detect them. They might be using science we don't even understand yet. So we just accept being their zoo animals. Asked a man from Nigeria, his voice rising in anger. No, said Han firmly. We find a way to fight back. With what? Asked the leader of China. You said yourself their ships are hundreds of years ahead of ours. One of their small ships could probably destroy our whole fleet. Han nodded slowly. Yes, in direct battle, we would lose. But there's something I've noticed in all our calls with the Galactic Council. He pressed a button, and the screen behind him showed clips from different calls with the aliens. Look at how they mock us, he said. They laugh at our wars, our politics, our slow technology. But they only laugh at what they feel superior about. Dr. Jia stepped forward. Commander Han is right. I've analyzed hundreds of hours of our communications with them. They only mock things they do better than us. They never laugh at our art, our music, our stories. What are you saying? Asked the leader of India. That we should send them more human art. They'll just laugh at that too. I don't think they will, said Han, because I don't think they understand it. The room grew quiet. Look at how they laugh, Han continued, playing more clips. It's always about feeling superior. There's no joy in it, no creativity. I think there's something uniquely human that they don't have. What's that? Asked several leaders at once. Han looked at each person in the room before answering. Our sense of humor, our ability to laugh at ourselves, to find joy even in our failures, to use irony and absurdity to cope with life's hardships. He paused. Think about it. Have you ever heard them tell a joke? Make a play on words, use sarcasm. The room was silent as people fought back to all the communications with the aliens. He's right, said Dr. Jia. Their mockery is simple, direct. There's no cleverness to it. So what do we do with this information? Asked the leader of Russia. How does knowing they have no sense of humor help us? Han looked at the world's leaders with determination in his eyes. They mock what they don't understand about us. But maybe there's something we have that they don't recognize, something uniquely human that could become our greatest strength. He straightened his shoulders. I propose a new approach to our alien problem. One that doesn't require better weapons or faster ships. One that uses something we have that they might not understand at all. And what's that? Asked the leader of the United States. Han smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Laughter. But not their kind of laughter. Ours. As the world leaders looked at each other in confusion, Han began to explain his plan. A plan so strange, so uniquely human, that no alien watching them could possibly understand what was coming. Their mockery of humanity was about to backfire in a way no one in the galaxy could predict. The humans were about to laugh back. Research Director Minho had not left his lab for 3 days. The walls of the Seoul Advanced Sciences Institute were covered with pictures of alien brains and human brains side by side. Empty coffee cups sat on every flat surface. You need to sleep, said Dr. Jade as she walked into the lab. She carried a bag of food and more coffee. Minho rubbed his tired eyes but shook his head. No time for sleep. Look at this. He pointed to a large screen that showed different colored brain scans. Some were human brains, others belonged to the aliens who kept mocking Earth. See this part here. Minho pointed to a bright yellow area in the human brain image. This lights up when we laugh at jokes, use irony, or understand wordplay. Dr. Jia leaned closer. And the alien brains? Nothing, said Minho. That part doesn't light up at all. In fact, many of them don't even have this brain structure. Dr. J's eyes widened. You mean they physically can't understand our humor? Not as we do, Minho explained. Their humor is only about feeling better than others. They laugh at what they think is below them. They don't understand making fun of yourself, playing with words, or finding the funny side of bad situations. The door opened, and Captain Kim walked in. He had been listening from the doorway. So they can laugh at others, but they can't laugh at themselves. Exactly, said Minho with excitement. And they can't understand jokes that play with double meanings or require seeing things from different angles. Dr. J sat down, thinking hard. This could be important. Can you prove this with more evidence? For the next 2 weeks, Minho's team analyzed thousands of hours of alien communications. They studied every galactic species they had records of. The results were always the same. The aliens had no neural pathways for complex humor. They could feel superior and mock others, but they couldn't understand puns, sarcasm, self-deprecation, or absurdist humor. But why? Asked Admiral Song during a private meeting with the research team. How could beings smart enough to travel between stars not understand a simple joke? Evolution takes different paths, explained Minho. These species evolved to be very logical and hierarchical. They survived by always knowing who was above or below them in status. Our ancestors survived partly through social bonds, and humor builds bonds. Humor has always been how humans cope with hard times, said Admiral Song thoughtfully. When things look worst, we often turn to laughter. The room fell quiet as everyone thought about this. Then Engineer Park spoke up from the corner where she had been silently listening. If they can't understand our humor, she said slowly, maybe that's our advantage. Everyone turned to look at her. What do you mean? Asked Commander Han. Park stood up, her eyes bright with a new idea. They're watching us, right? Broadcasting our lives as entertainment. But what if we give them something they can't understand at all? You mean like jokes? Asked Captain Kim, looking confused. Not just any jokes, said Park. I mean humor so uniquely human that it confuses them completely. Humor that makes no sense if you don't have the brain structure to get it. Dr. J nodded slowly, understanding beginning to dawn. Like absurdist humor. Surreal comedy. Things that are funny specifically because they make no logical sense. But how does confusing them help us? Asked Admiral Song. Commander Han smiled as he caught on to the idea. Because nothing upsets beings who think they're superior more than finding something they can't understand. Exactly, said Park. And they've just given us the perfect way to deliver it. Their own cameras watching our every move. The next day, Commander Han called a secret meeting with Earth's best comedians, writers, and psychological warfare experts. They gathered in an underground bunker, away from the alien watching devices that might be anywhere above ground. We need a new kind of weapon, Han told the group. One made of jokes, pranks, and humor that only humans can understand. A famous comedian from Canada raised her hand. You want us to confuse aliens with jokes? Not just confuse them, said Dr. Jia. We want to make them question their superiority. Make them wonder why billions of humans are laughing at things they can't understand. Engineer Park stepped forward with diagrams of a new device. I've created a way to find the alien broadcasting equipment. We can't remove it, but we can use it. We can make sure they see exactly what we want them to see. So what's the plan? Asked a writer from Kenya. We tell jokes that aliens won't get. No, said Commander Han. We create an entirely new human culture overnight. One based on humor that requires understanding irony, self-deprecation, and absurdity. We perform it everywhere, all the time, so their cameras capture it all. Like a global flash mob, said a psychological warfare expert from Argentina. but one that never ends and makes no sense to outsiders. Exactly, said Han. We call it Project Cosmic Joke. For the next month, plans were made in secret. The world's leaders agreed to the unusual strategy, partly because no one had a better idea, and partly because it couldn't make things worse. If we fail, said Han, they'll just keep laughing at us as they already do. But if we succeed, we might just change how the galaxy sees humans, finished Admiral Song. On May 15th, Project Cosmic Joke began. All across Earth, people started acting strangely in ways meant to be captured by the alien cameras. In New York, 10,000 people walked backwards through Times Square while wearing socks on their hands, completely straight-faced as if this was normal. In Tokyo, businessmen in serious suits stopped in the middle of crosswalks to have pillow fights with stuffed animals they pulled from their briefcases, then continued to work as if nothing had happened. In Lagos, an entire market suddenly broke into synchronized dancing to music no one could hear, then returned to shopping mid-movement. In Paris, people began speaking in sentences where every word started with the same letter, nodding seriously as if having profound conversations. Overnight, internet memes came to life on streets around the world. Inside jokes became public performances. The absurdity was carefully crafted to look meaningful while being completely nonsensical to anyone not in on the joke. And everyone on Earth was in on the joke except the watching aliens. At the Galactic Council Viewing Center, confusion spread among the aliens watching the primitive planet show. What are they doing? Asked Counselor Vex, his mandibles clicking in agitation. Yesterday, humans in this Brazil region all walked in circles around yellow fruit they placed on the ground. Today they're putting small paper hats on statues everywhere. The humans in Australia area have started ending all spoken sentences with "as the prophecy foretold," while nodding seriously, reported another analyst. Is this a new religion forming? The most disturbing development, said the head analyst, is that they all seem to understand these behaviors. They nod and laugh at specific moments that follow no logical pattern we can detect. Increase surveillance, ordered Vex. We need to understand what's happening. Back on Earth, Commander Han received the first reports that the plan was working. The aliens were increasing their surveillance, trying to understand the sudden change in human behavior. Phase 1 is successful, he told his team. They're confused, but think there must be some logical explanation they're missing. When do we move to Phase 2? Asked Captain Kim. Han smiled. Tomorrow. Engineer Park has finished the modifications to our communication system. It's time we talk directly to the Galactic Council again. And what will you say? Asked Dr. Jai. Nothing they'll understand, said Han. And that's exactly the point. As night fell across Earth, billions of humans went to sleep smiling. For the first time since learning about the watching aliens, they felt hope. They were fighting back not with violence or technology, but with something uniquely human. The ability to laugh together at the absurdity of life itself. And the aliens didn't get the joke at all. Engineer Park didn't sleep the night before the big call. She checked her modified communication system one last time. Her invention could now hijack the aliens' own broadcasting network. Whatever Commander Han said would reach not just the Galactic Council, but all the billions of beings watching the primitive planet show. Is it ready? Asked Commander Han, walking into the control room early in the morning. Park nodded. Yes, sir. When you speak, the whole galaxy will hear you. Good, said Han. And our other systems? Ready too, said Captain Kim from his station. Teams around the world are standing by. At exactly 10 o'clock a.m., Han sat at the communication desk and pressed the call button. The large screen in front of him flickered, then showed the now familiar face of Counselor Vex and other alien leaders. Ah, the humans call again, said Vex, his voice full of fake politeness. Have you finally realized how silly your new behaviors are? The whole galaxy is quite confused by your strange new customs. Han smiled. Good morning, Counselor. or as we say in our New Earth greeting, Banana Sunset Bicycle Thursday. The aliens stared in confusion. "What does that mean?" asked Vex after a long pause. "It means exactly what it sounds like," said Han seriously. "Surely an advanced species like yours can understand such a simple concept." The aliens looked at each other uncomfortably. "We have been watching your planet closely," said another council member. "Your people have been acting in ways we cannot understand. Explain yourselves." Han raised an eyebrow. "Explain? What needs explaining about standing on one leg while holding a spoon to your nose every time someone says a word with the letter E in it? It's perfectly obvious." Dr. Jia, sitting next to Han, nodded seriously. "As clear as putting shoes on your hands on Tuesdays." The aliens were becoming visibly upset. Their skin colors changed, and some were making clicking sounds with their mouth parts. "You are speaking nonsense," said Vex finally. "Are we?" asked Han innocently. "Or are you simply unable to understand concepts that humans find basic? I thought your species prided itself on superior intelligence." Vex's face darkened. "We demand a clear explanation of what your species is doing." "I'm being very clear," said Han. "The problem seems to be on your end." He turned to Dr. Jia. "Perhaps they need the simplified version." Dr. J nodded. "Of course." She turned to the screen. "Counselor, when the moon hit your eye like a big pizza pie, that's amore." The room of humans kept serious faces while the aliens became more and more agitated. "This conversation is useless," shouted Vex. "Oh, I disagree," said Han calmly. "I think it's very useful indeed. It's showing us, and everyone watching, something important about the so-called superior species of the galaxy." For the first time, worry showed in Vex's eyes. "What do you mean, everyone watching?" Engineer Park smiled from her station. "He means that this call is being broadcast on your own network, to everyone who usually watches your primitive planet show." The council members began talking all at once in their own languages. Han could tell they were upset and confused. "You cannot access our broadcasting system," said Vex. "That's impossible with your technology level." A wise human once said, "Impossible is just a big word thrown around by small people who find it easier to live in the world they've been given than to explore the power they have to change it," said Han. "Also, knock knock." "What?" asked Vex, completely lost. "You're supposed to say, 'Who's there?'" explained Captain Kim helpfully. The call ended abruptly as the aliens cut the connection. Han turned to his team with a smile. "Phase 2 complete." They're rattled. "What now?" asked Admiral Song. "Now," said Han, "we keep going. We just showed the whole galaxy that the mighty Galactic Council is confused by simple human communication. Let's see how they like being laughed at." Over the next weeks, Earth continued its strange new culture. But now there was a new target: the aliens themselves. Humans began drawing cartoon versions of Counselor Vex and other aliens. The pictures showed them looking confused by simple things like umbrellas or bicycles. These cartoons appeared everywhere: on buildings, on shirts, even painted on the sides of airplanes where the aliens' cameras would be sure to see them. Comedy shows created skits about aliens who couldn't understand jokes. These shows became the most watched programs on Earth, and through the hijacked alien broadcast system, across much of the galaxy as well. Earth's best comedians created a special show called Explaining Jokes to Aliens. They would tell a simple joke, then spend an hour explaining it in increasingly complicated ways that made no sense at all. "Today we'll explain why the chicken crossed the road," a famous comedian from Mexico announced. "But first, we need to discuss the philosophical concept of the other side as it relates to quantum physics and breakfast cereal." Every time the Galactic Council tried to call Earth to demand explanations, they were met with more wordplay, puns, and sarcasm that left them completely lost. "The humans are doing this on purpose," Vex shouted during an emergency council meeting. "They're making us look foolish in front of the galaxy." "But why?" asked another council member. What do they gain from this nonsense? I don't know, admitted Vex, but our viewers are changing their viewing habits. Many are now watching human broadcasts directly instead of our commentary on them. This was true. Across the galaxy, beings were becoming fascinated by humans and their strange ways. Many were trying to understand human humor. Some younger aliens had even started telling jokes themselves, creating a small but growing rebellion against the serious galactic culture. Back on Earth, Dr. J brought new reports to Commander Han. "It's working better than we hoped," she said excitedly. "Not only is the Council confused, but several independent alien civilizations have contacted us directly. They want to learn more about humans. Some are even offering trade deals." Han looked at the reports and nodded. They're curious about the species that confused the mighty Galactic Council. "There's more," said Captain Kim, walking in with another report. "The Primitive Planet show has lost half its viewers. The aliens can't explain our behavior, so their commentary makes them look stupid." Admiral Song joined them, his old face showing a rare smile. "And our scientists have located more of their camera devices. Engineer Park says we can use them to broadcast whatever we want." Han thought for a moment. "Then it's time for Phase 3. We need to speak directly to the galaxy again, but this time we'll mix our humor with some truth." The next day, Han stood before a camera in a simple room. His uniform was neat, and his face was serious. When he spoke, his words went out to billions of beings across thousands of planets. "People of the galaxy," he began. "You've been watching Earth through the Galactic Council's Primitive Planets program. You've seen us acting in ways you might not understand. Today, I want to explain why." He paused, making sure he had the galaxy's attention. "The Council has been mocking humans for years. They called us primitive. They laughed at our struggles. They put cameras on our world without permission to make us into entertainment." His voice grew stronger. "But they didn't understand something important about humans. When we face something bigger than ourselves, we don't give up. We find a way to fight back. Sometimes that way is humor, our ability to laugh at ourselves and the absurdity of life." Han looked directly into the camera. "The Council couldn't understand our humor because they can only laugh at others, never at themselves. They think being superior means never being laughed at. We know better. True strength is being able to laugh at yourself." He smiled slightly. "So yes, we confused them on purpose. We showed them, and you, that intelligence comes in many forms. That understanding wordplay, irony, and jokes is its own kind of intelligence, one that the Council lacks." The message went out across the stars. And for the first time, the galaxy wasn't laughing at humans. They were listening to them. 3 months after Commander Han's message to the galaxy, Earth had changed. Alien ships now appeared in the sky almost daily, but they were not from the Galactic Council. They came from independent worlds wanting to meet the humans who had confused the mighty Council. "Another trade request," said Captain Kim, handing a tablet to Commander Han. "This one is from the Doro system. They want to trade their metal-growing technology for human entertainment." Han nodded as he looked over the offer. "Approved. Send it to the Trade Committee." The command center was busier than ever. Where once it had been a place of worry and anger about alien mockery, it was now the hub of growing relations with many alien worlds. "Sir," called Dr. J from her station, "you should see this." Han walked over to her screen. It showed images from an alien world where young aliens were wearing T-shirts with Earth jokes printed on them. Some were trying to tell jokes to each other, laughing awkwardly as they didn't quite understand the punchlines. "It's happening on 12 worlds now," said Dr. J. "They're calling it the Human Humor Movement. Young aliens are rebelling against their serious leaders by trying to understand and use our jokes." Han smiled. "And the Council?" "Silent for almost 2 weeks," said Admiral Song, joining them. "Their Primitive Planet show has been canceled due to low ratings. Most viewers now watch direct feeds from Earth instead." Engineer Park burst into the room, her eyes wide with excitement. "Commander, we just got a private message from someone inside the council. They want to meet with you. Alone." Han raised an eyebrow. "Who?" "Counselor Vex himself," said Park. "He says it's urgent and must be kept secret." 2 days later, Han sat alone in a small room at Earth's lunar base. The door opened, and Counselor Vex walked in without guards or weapons. He looked different somehow, less proud, more thoughtful. "Thank you for meeting me," said Vex, sitting across from Han. "I was curious," said Han simply. "Why the secrecy?" Vex's mandibles clicked nervously, "Because what I'm about to say could get me removed from the council." Han waited silently. "Your strategy worked," admitted Vex finally. "You made us look foolish. But more than that, you showed the galaxy something about us that we had successfully hidden for centuries." "Which is?" asked Han. "That our superiority is built on a narrow definition of intelligence," said Vex. "We have always judged species by their technology, their conquest of space, their logical thinking. We never considered that intelligence might take other forms." Han nodded slowly. "Like understanding humor, irony, and wordplay." "Yes," said Vex. "Things we physically cannot process due to our evolution. We cannot understand why a being would say something they don't literally mean. We cannot grasp why someone would make fun of themselves. These concepts are—" He struggled for the word. "Alien to you," suggested Han with a small smile. Vex made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Yes, exactly." "So, why are you here?" asked Han. Vex leaned forward. "The council is divided. Many still want to ignore humans or find a way to stop your influence. But others, including myself, have come to believe we might have something to learn from your species." Han's eyebrows rose in surprise. "You want to learn from us?" "Yes," said Vex. "Your ability to use humor, to see things from multiple perspectives at once, to find joy in absurdity. These are forms of intelligence we lack, and they might be valuable." Vex placed a small device on the table between them. "This is a formal invitation for Earth to join the Galactic Federation as a probationary member. Not because you've suddenly advanced technologically, but because you've demonstrated a unique form of intelligence the galaxy hasn't seen before." Han stared at the device, hardly believing what he was hearing. "And the Council approved this?" "By a narrow margin," admitted Vex, "and with conditions. The main one being that humans help teach interested species about your forms of humor and creative thinking." Han picked up the device carefully. "So you want us to teach you how to take a joke?" "In simple terms, yes," said Vex. "Though I doubt many of my generation will ever truly understand, but the younger ones might." 1 month later, Han stood before the Earth United Nations again. Leaders from every country listened as he explained the invitation from the Galactic Federation. "They're offering us membership," he said, "limited at first, but with full trading rights and protection." "Because we confused them with jokes?" asked the leader of Brazil, looking skeptical. "No," said Han, "because we showed them, and the galaxy, that there are different kinds of intelligence. That being able to build faster ships isn't the only measure of an advanced species. And they want us to teach them humor," asked the leader of Egypt. Dr. Jha stepped forward. "Not exactly. They know they can't fully understand our humor, but they want to learn our creativity, our ability to see problems from multiple angles, our talent for finding unconventional solutions." "In other words," said Engineer Park with a grin, "they want to think outside the box. And humans are very good at that." The vote was unanimous. Earth would accept the invitation and join the Galactic Federation. 6 months later, the first Human Cultural Center opened on the Galactic Council's homeworld. Dr. Jha led a team of Earth's best teachers, artists, comedians, and thinkers to share human creativity with interested aliens. Their first class was packed with young aliens eager to learn about human thinking. "Today," began Dr. Jha, "we'll start with something simple. A joke. Why did the chicken cross the road?" The aliens looked at each other in confusion. "To get to the other side," said Jay. Blank faces stared back at her. "Don't worry if you don't get it yet," she said kindly. "Humor is just one small part of how humans think. What's important is learning to see things from different perspectives." In the back of the room, Commander Han washed with pride. Next to him stood Admiral Song, his old face now relaxed and smiling. "Did you ever think it would end like this?" asked Song quietly. "That our greatest weapon would be our jokes?" "No," admitted Han. "But I've learned something important from all this." "What's that?" asked Song. "That sometimes the best way to deal with those who look down on you isn't to try to beat them at their own game. It's to play a different game entirely, one they don't even understand." On the other side of the galaxy, the Primitive Planet show was officially ended. In its place, a new program began, Human Perspectives, hosted by both aliens and humans. It became the most popular show in galactic history. Counselor Vex, now the head of interspecies relations, made a statement at the launch of the show. "For too long, we judged other species by how similar they were to us. We now recognize that true galactic progress comes from embracing different forms of intelligence and creativity. Humans have taught us that sometimes the most advanced thing a species can do is laugh at itself." Back on Earth, children still learned about the time when aliens had mocked humanity. But now they also learned what came after, how humanity had laughed back and changed their place in the galaxy forever. Not with weapons or technology, but with the uniquely human ability to find humor in even the darkest situations, and the courage to laugh not just at others, but at themselves. And that, as humans like to say, was the best joke of all.